Well, I have a few words to say before we bring out the stars. In late 2005, Lenny and Megan Meyer and I decided to pursue an opportunity to buy a brew pub. And thanks to the Small Business Administration loans, we were able to get pretty easy access to capital, which we really needed at that time. And I really hope that Washington continues to provide opportunities like this, as small businesses will prove to be the backbone of our recovery economy. About 3 weeks after we bought O'Hooley's back in 2005, my mother, Jackie Ostrike, was diagnosed with cancer. Unfortunately, she passed away 6 months after that, but not before she knew that we were going to name this place in her honor. And we're hoping that sometime in the future we can bring Jackie O back to the White House. Over the past 10 years, we've continued to grow from that small building uptown, which will be open till 2 in the morning, to this newly expanded building that we're standing in right now. This growth has allowed us to expand our business into many different fronts, including a 22-acre farm, a bake shop, a brew pub, restaurant, and this production facility. As production has increased, it has allowed us to grow from 6 employees in 2005 to 102 as of I call them employees, but really they're family. Got a whole bunch of turkeys behind me. We've chosen to provide health care to our family of valued employees, an expense that we feel is well worth it. But some of our core values are to create jobs and opportunities that provide strong living wages for employees in Appalachia. We strive to improve through continual education and hands-on learning, and of course, we try to always have fun. It should be. Training is also very important to us, and later today we're hoping that Mr. Reed back here can show Secretary Clinton how to pour a proper pint of beer. Second, we got a lot of requests for that to happen over the past 36 hours. Thanks to Brad Clark, who's been our brewmaster since day one. Our dedication to locally grown products and goods is apparent with our collaborations and support with over 20 farms, creameries, and orchards throughout Ohio. Thanks to funding from the USDA Rural Energy Assistance Program, otherwise known as REAP, we worked with another local company, Third Sun Solar, to install, we actually got a 94 kilowatt array with 298 panels that just turned on last week on this very roof. And that should allow us to offset more than 50% of our projected energy use and further our goal towards sustainability. Annually, we produce over 80 handcrafted artisan ales. Each pint is infused with American creativity and traditional brewing techniques. You can find Jackie O's in about 3,000 bars and carryouts around the state of Ohio today. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I welcome and bring to our stage our United States Senator, Sherrod Brown, actually from Mansfield, Ohio. Secretary Clinton has been here 5, maybe 6 times now since 1992. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it on to Senator Brown.
Smart as art is, as good as this business is, as much as it does for this community, I think he undercounted. I think that Hillary Clinton's been to Athens even more times than he said. She seems like she so fits in. She seems like she just might live here. So this is such a great asset for Athens, Ohio, serving the community the way that Art does and this company does, paving the way for innovation with solar panels. And Hillary and I were talking about that. One of the most extensive solar panels of any brewery in the United States of America, creating good jobs in great beer like Raz Sweet. The beer is sold all over Ohio, as you know. It's even been served and sold at Progressive Field in Cleveland. Two great Ohio institutions. Art grew up in Northeast Ohio. 2 great Ohio institutions. Jackie O's and the Cleveland Indians. Okay, the Cincinnati Reds, but It's my honor to introduce Hillary Clinton, not just because she's going to be the next president of the United States, but right before the Ohio primary, her husband and I were in Akron. Anyway, I turned to him on stage, a stage about this size, I said, "No offense, Mr. President, but you know, Hillary Clinton's the most qualified person in my lifetime to run for president of the United States." And he smiled and he clapped and he laughed and he said, "You know, that really is right." And it is. Starting what she did fighting for children and families as part of the Children's Defense Fund, from her time as First Lady, from her time as U.S. Senator from New York's not the biggest state anymore, but next to Ohio, it's maybe the most important state in the country. Being the incredible Secretary of State, what she did to lift up women in country after country. I trust Hillary Clinton to continue working for working families as she has all her life, and continue working to lift up women, and especially to be a role model for young women like those two. And I trust Hillary Clinton to stand up to China and to fight for better trade laws, to fight for American manufacturing, to bring jobs to Southeast Ohio, and fight to raise wages in Appalachia, because she knows and I know how important that is. President Johnson came to Athens, Ohio, 52 years ago, I believe, this week, today, to talk about the Great Society. He said, "With your courage and your compassion and your desire, we will build the Great Society. A society where no child will go unfed, no youngster will go unschooled, no man who wants work, or woman, he forgot to say, will fail to find it, where no citizen will be barred from any door because of his birthplace or his color or his church." Think about that in the 2016 election. Where peace and security are common among neighbors and possible among nations. We've seen incredible progress, but we clearly aren't there yet. That's why Hillary Clinton's presidency is so very important. The Great Society and all its goals wouldn't come easy. He cautioned we must approach this task with great enthusiasm and not with cynicism. If that's not Hillary Clinton, great enthusiasm without cynicism, I don't know what is. The Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump, who will be the nominee, has built his campaign around cynicism and fear and hate. Hillary, I trust her to take on Donald Trump, to lift people up, to bring them together, not to build walls, but to knock down barriers, as she says, and bring new opportunity to coal communities that are suffering across this great region of our great state. I trust Hillary to honor her commitments to coal miners, something that Mitch McConnell has refused to do, to make sure coal miners, the UMW pension is restored and health care is funded. I've talked to Hillary, I know what she will do there. I trust her to honor her commitments on Teamsters and retirees. She understands that the most successful efforts will begin in local communities like Athens, Ohio. It's only been a couple of years when Union Street was devastated by a fire. And you know what that meant to this community. But this community put defeatism aside, put any kind of hopelessness aside, and approached the task of rebuilding the greatness of Athens, Ohio. You deserve a president like Hillary Clinton who will fight every single day for working people as president, because that's what she has done her entire life. A life of public service, a life of doing for others, a life of just making this country better. That's why it's my honor to introduce the next president of the United States.
To be here at the end of a road trip through one of the most beautiful parts of our country. I thank Sherrod for his friendship, his leadership, his absolutely tenacious voice in the Senate on your behalf and on behalf of the values that made America great and will make us greater. So thank your superb senator. I really appreciate you being here, Sherrod. I also want to recognize and thank Mayor Steve Patterson from here, all the other state, county, and city elected officials, and of course, I have to thank Art, who invited us to come here, disrupting his entire brewing schedule, but did it with good cheer, having us here in Jackie O's. And I have made another campaign promise. I know I should stop making campaign promises, but I only make promises that I intend to keep, not promises. I have told her that if I'm so fortunate enough to be back in the White House, some Jackie O's will be there too. It might be Razzie, it might be something else, but I will let him choose. That's one promise I really look forward to keeping. You know, over the past 2 days, I've had some extraordinary conversations, tough and honest. I've met with coal families who want to be thanked, as they should be, for the work that they and their parents and their grandparents did to build our country. I've met with steel worker families who don't understand how China gets away with undercutting our jobs and businesses. And I've met with railroaders who watched as the decline of coal and steel in this region has led to cuts in rail service, which costs jobs now and will cut the region off from more jobs later. So to everyone who took the time to tell me about their lives, both the good and the bad, I'm really grateful and thank you. I will not forget that generosity. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot, which is what I came here to do. We started in Ashland, Kentucky, where I met with dozens of steelworkers who were laid off when the factory where they worked for decades was idle. Then we drove to Williamson, West Virginia, a town deep in the coal fields where the community is working hard to build a more diverse economy after losing hundreds of jobs. Today, we had a conversation in Charleston, West Virginia, that was both sorrowful and inspiring, with people in recovery for addiction, and the doctors, the counselors, the police officers, recovering addicts, and others who are helping them get back on their feet. I'm ending my trip here in Athens because small businesses like Jackie O's are what make this such a dynamic entrepreneurial community, and we need more of that. It shouldn't have to be said, but I will say it. Appalachia is a vital part of the United States. All of you here today and people across this region are vital to America's future. And I know that too often people feel like they're not treated that way. But you should be. Appalachia is home to some of the most resilient, hardworking people anywhere on this planet. And you deserve every chance to get ahead and stay ahead in America. Our country succeeds only when working people everywhere can succeed. Not just in big cities, but in the hills of eastern Kentucky, right here in southern Ohio, deep in the coal fields of West Virginia, the small towns that dot this part of America. We need to break down all the barriers holding people back. Not just here in Appalachia, but across America, so everyone can share in the promise of our country. Families here, like families everywhere, want the same things. Good jobs that pay enough to provide a middle-class life, good schools for kids and opportunities when they graduate, safe and welcoming communities to grow up in and grow old in, and something less tangible but just as essential, faith in the future and confidence that your kids and grandkids will have all the choices and opportunities they deserve. That shouldn't be too much to ask, especially for a place that has done so much for America. For generations, Appalachian coal put the lights on in people's homes and schools, kept assembly lines rolling in factories. Steel plants helped to build our skyscrapers and win World War II. Appalachian chemical plants made the products that have shaped modern life. These were tough jobs, but they provided a ticket to the middle class. But it wasn't an easy ride. More than 100,000, let me repeat that, more than 100,000 miners died on the job in the 20th century in America. More than twice that many succumbed to black lung disease. The United Mine Workers put their lives on the line in places like Harlan County and Blair Mountain to secure the right to organize, bargain collectively, and protect the well-being of miners on the job and in retirement. Their hard-won victories helped strengthen the labor movement nationwide. And countless workers, not just those in unions, but countless workers have benefited in all kinds of industries. So there's no question that the workers of Appalachia made America more prosperous and more secure. And that legacy should be honored, not only as a rich chapter in our history, but as a debt we always must strive to repay. Now, I know that for a lot of people in this region, these words may sound nice, but it's not so easy to believe them. You've had a lot of politicians make a lot of promises to you over the years that they couldn't keep. I'm not going to do that. What I can promise you is this. If I have the honor of serving as your president, I will fight for you and your families every day, whether you vote for me or not. I will be your president. I will be your partner, and I will not for 1 minute give up on Appalachia. Not on your workers, your children, your retirees, or your communities. Now, some of you may be wondering, how can I say all this? Here in Ohio, a few weeks ago during the Ohio primary, it sounded like I said something differently about coal miner jobs. To put it plainly, I misspoke. It's one reason why I took this trip, to say that directly to the people who are affected, to make sure you know where I stand, because I would never disrespect the people here. And I know that some may well say, I'm talking about coal country, I'm talking about steel workers, I'm talking about the region because of the election. But let's be honest, in the broader region, this isn't one where a lot of Democrats running for president tend to win a lot of votes these days. And I know that there are people in this region, I met with some of them yesterday, who find it hard thinking about voting for any Democrat or voting for me particularly. But I'm going to keep trying to convince people otherwise, but that's not what this trip is about. I'm here because I do want to be your president, because I believe that our best years can still be ahead of us. I am absolutely sure of that. But it's going to require not just what the president does, but what all of us do. It's going to require people once again being inspired by that spirit that has animated American history, that we don't just diagnose our problems and complain about them, we roll up our sleeves and we solve them. And so for me, learning more about the lives of the people here and about what you want for your futures is critical to what kind of president I would like to be. There's nothing I take more seriously than that. So I've said to people, I'm going to try to earn every vote I can. And even if people don't vote for me in November, I'm going to be with them and with you every single day. So let me be clear. At a time when our energy sector is changing rapidly, we need to invest in coal communities. We need to figure out how to bring new jobs and industries to them. And we need to stand up to the coal company executives trying to shirk their responsibilities to their workers and retirees. The facts are clear. The energy market is changing here in America and around the world. But coal is still part of our energy supply, although it produces far less of our electricity than it once did. Even China is starting to burn less coal. That's good for the planet, but it has hurt American coal exports from this region. And no matter what some politicians tell you, these trends are here to stay. You've got solar panels, don't you, Art, on top of this brewery? We're not going to go back to an energy system that looks like it did in the 20th century. We know we need to protect our children's health and futures by combating climate change and accelerating the transition to a clean energy economy. But that is still a transition. Anyone who pretends we can flip a switch and be in the clean energy future tomorrow isn't being honest with you either. So we need to try everything we can to cut carbon pollution. That includes supporting cutting-edge work being done right here in Appalachia in institutions working on carbon capture and sequestration technology. This is too important to take any possible solution off the table. I believe if we're going to go around the country talking about the benefits of a clean energy economy, which I have done for more than a year, then we have a responsibility to come to this region of our country and look people in the eye and talk about what that really means for your lives and livelihoods. The impact on Appalachia is compounded by other economic challenges. The Chinese are dumping cheap steel in our markets, trying to fix their domestic economic problems on the backs of American workers. And a lot of families still haven't recovered from the Great Recession, which wiped out jobs, homes, and savings. Yesterday, I met a man named Bo in West Virginia. He was a maintenance planner in a mining operation in Mingo County. He lost his job last fall. He showed me a picture of his 3 beautiful little children, a son and 2 daughters, and said he was trying to keep on a brave face for them so they wouldn't know how worried he and his wife are. West Virginians are proud people, Bo said. We take pride in our faith in God, we take pride in our family, we take pride in our jobs. We take pride in the fact that we're hard workers. So why, he asked, aren't there more programs in place already to help people like him? Why isn't there more help to turn to? How are we going to get new jobs there, not years from now, but right now? I'll bet everybody in here knows somebody in the same boat. And Bo was really clear. He's a Republican. He is not voting for me. But I really don't care about that. We need to do better for Bo and his family and families like his across Appalachia and America. And that means coming together, making a real plan to invest in the foundations of a strong middle class, namely good jobs and quality education for our kids, and a level playing field for American workers. That's what my plan for revitalizing communities here will do. First, we've got to honor our obligations to miners past and present and stand with the steelworkers who are fighting for their livelihoods right now. For months, I've been speaking out against the coal companies like Patriot and Peabody and Arch Coal that have tried to shirk their responsibilities to workers and retirees. Miners, power plant workers, and railroad employees deserve the benefits they've earned and the respect of all Americans. And among the 100,000 miners who died in the last century. We've lost miners in this century, too, who are joined with them in sacrifice. The 29 brave men who perished at the Upper Big Branch mine. The owner of that mine, Don Blankenship, had neglected workers' safety for years. And because of weak laws, when he was finally caught, finally charged, and finally convicted, he only received a 1-year prison sentence. 1 year for 29 deaths. That is totally unacceptable. We need to strengthen those laws and hold executives who neglect workers' health and safety to account. That is why I support 2 bills in front of Congress right now that Sherrod referenced: the Miners Protection Act and the Mine Safety Protection Act. They are critical. They are critical to keeping faith with coal communities and protecting workers' health and safety on the job. I hope the Congress will pass them and the President will sign them as quickly as possible. And by the way, I heard Mr. Blankenship was outside my event yesterday, protesting with me. Well, if Donald Trump wants the support of someone like that, he can have it. And at a time when Chinese cheating is killing American steel jobs, I am not going to leave our steel workers to fend for themselves. As president, I'll make sure we step up and initiate cases against China before jobs are lost, not after. And I intend to appoint a special trade prosecutor and push for stronger rule of origin standards so Chinese steel doesn't have a back door to American markets, for example, as part of foreign cars. And I oppose any effort to grant so-called market economy status to China because it would weaken our ability to stop China from dumping cheap steel on the global market. It's illegal, and it's hurting American workers, and we've got to make it stop. I am so proud to be standing up here with your senator because he has been on the front lines of this, and together, Sherrod, we're going to make it happen. Second, we need to invest in creating more good-paying jobs here in Appalachia. We know this region is rich in assets far beyond coal. We also know that economic development plans designed in Washington without local input will not deliver results for you and your families. That's why I want to support locally driven priorities, not supplant them. My plan will create a new Coal Communities Challenge Fund to support investments by Appalachians for Appalachians. When I was in Mingo County yesterday, in Williamson, I heard from members of the community who were talking about how they are trying to generate more small business to create more jobs. They started an incubator to help local entrepreneurs get new ventures off the ground. They knew that they needed better housing infrastructure, so they put people to work refurbishing homes and businesses. They realized that many of their neighbors were struggling with opiate addiction and other chronic health issues like diabetes, so they opened a nonprofit health clinic. Meanwhile, the county there is stepping up by repurposing abandoned mine lands for new industrial parkland that's bringing in and has the potential to bring in more big employers. This is the kind of locally driven development that I think can really work. The federal government should do more to support it. Across the river from Williamson in Kentucky, I learned about a company called BitSource. It trains former miners to be computer programmers and matches them to jobs in eastern Kentucky. Silicon Valley tech companies are learning about these miners' technical chops and hiring them. Now, this is not a silver bullet by any means, but it is helping. And we need to grow that kind of creative, entrepreneurial approach. Mix hardworking people with skills that are needed, create those jobs, attract investments. And I'll tell you what, with more access to fast, affordable, reliable broadband, we could do even more. 8 years ago, I spent a lot of time driving the roads of West Virginia. I spent a lot of time yesterday and today driving the roads of West Virginia. And you are disconnected. You are disconnected, though. I mean, West Virginia deserves just as much broadband access as any place else in America, and so does Southern Ohio and Eastern Kentucky and all the rest of the region. That is one of my goals, just like we had to finish electrifying the country, because you know what happens. You get utilities, they'll go where the business is. They don't want to be climbing mountains and crossing rivers to get to 10 people. They want to go to cities and suburbs where it's easy. They want to come to a great university like this one where you got a lot of users. We've got to finish the job of connecting up America. And I'm convinced when we do, we're going to see a whole bunch of new small businesses and creative ideas be put into action. And I do want to support what I learned about yesterday. Let's repurpose abandoned mine lands and power plants to support new jobs like the industrial park in Holden, West Virginia, which makes wood products on the site of a former coal mine. And let's expand the New Markets Tax Credit, something my husband started back in the 1990s, to steer investment and private enterprise more to Appalachia. Now, having a good job is about so much more than getting a paycheck. It's about dignity and a sense of purpose. I don't want young people to have to leave home to find those things. I want them to be able to stay right here in this region, be near their family and friends, and earn a good living. Be able to give their kids a great life. You just shouldn't have to leave home when we are in such a connected world now. Well, let's connect ourselves up. Let's get creative. And I know we can create a really bright future. And the third part of our plan for revitalizing Appalachian communities is investing in education and training. More than ever, some form of advanced education. Doesn't have to be college or university. It can be technical education, apprenticeships, community colleges, but it makes a real difference. Now, we are going to make community college free and give all young people, to graduate debt-free from any public college or university. We will make it easier to pay off existing student debt, and if you're an entrepreneur, we'll let you defer your student loan payments and pay no interest for up to 3 years while you get your business off the ground. Because I want more people to take advantage. Be able to take advantage of incubators like AceNet here in Southeast Ohio. It supports up to 30 startups every year. And if we multiply that, think of what we will create together. And we have to make sure that people who don't go to college get the education and training they need to get a good job. There's a lot of ways of doing that. But there are a lot of jobs out there. Last number I saw was 1.2 million jobs for people with skills in the trades. Welders, tool and die, machinists, and the like.
Peters House at 145 East Main Street in Lancaster, Ohio, originally was built in 1835 for William and Mary Elizabeth Reese. Mary Elizabeth was the sister of William Tecumseh Sherman, who later gained fame as a Civil War general, and John Sherman, who decades later as senator would write the Sherman Antitrust Act. During these years, Lancaster was the economic, political, and cultural center of the area, as well as being one of the largest cities in the territory. In 1834, the Lancaster Lateral Canal, which connected Lancaster to the Ohio Erie Canal, was completed, bringing new wealth and prosperity to the region. Sadly, the Reeses left the house in 1842 as the result of the financial hardships brought on by the economic conditions, which impacted the Reeses along with thousands of other Americans. The house changed hands a number of times over the next 30 years. In 1872, Talmadge sold the house to Philip and Caroline Rising. Philip Rising was an entrepreneur who started a business manufacturing uniforms for soldiers during the Civil War. Philip also founded one of Lancaster's early banks, which later became Fairfield National Bank. After purchasing the house, the Risings made many needed repairs and redecorated in the latest style known as Eastlake. Philip and Caroline had a son, George, and a daughter, Ida. Ida married Henry Beck Peters, and they lived with her parents in the house. Henry insisted that he pay rent to his father-in-law. Henry was the founder and president of Lancaster Traction, the company that brought the streetcars to Lancaster to accommodate the new prosperity brought on by its developing industry, glass manufacturing. The Peters had a son, also named Philip. George also married, and he and his wife, Lena Wright, had a son named Russell. Following Lena's untimely death, George and Russell returned to the house. Cousins Philip and Russell grew up together in the Main Street home. Philip Rising died in 1909 and Caroline in 1915. Philip Peters married Dorothy Wiley. They had 4 children: Mary, twin boys Henry and Philip, and Caroline. Philip and Dorothy lived in town and frequently brought the children to visit their grandparents at the house. The house was energized with young ones, playing in the yard and sliding down the banister. Afternoons were spent on the big porch, which became the summer living room, and returning inside for big family dinners.